Good afternoon, everyone. Here's the video newsletter, February 28th. It's actually been quite a while since I've done these videos. I thought I would start them up again. No better time than now. We've just had a phenomenal rally since the election, with the Dow going from essentially 17,800 to 21,000 and just up almost every single day. And, tonight's going to be interesting. That's why I thought I would do the video. We've got the president talking tonight. If we actually get some details and some proposals about the tax cut, infrastructure, etc., and not the same nonsense we've seen over the last month about bashing the media, we could be in store for further upside, at least in the near term. If we get more of that same nonsense, they could use it as an excuse to take this market down. Now, we've got a lot of potential things coming up in the near term that you're not really hearing being talked about in the media. March 15th is a really big day. The reason being the debt ceiling, the deal that Obama made with Boehner back in 2015, that deal expires. That extension to the debt ceiling expires March 15th, and that puts the $20 trillion debt limit into law, which leaves only a couple of $100 billion in breathing room for the government. And that is going to be a major test to see if Trump really has the House GOP under his thumb, or if it's more of the same no nonsense that we've seen over the last 6 years from the GOP House. So that's going to be really interesting in the near term. If they roll over and do what he says, this market could continue to go on for quite a while. Looking at the Dow, here's the Dow daily chart here. 20 days, about 400 or 500 points below. Not really that big of a deal. 50-day is down here around 20K, and that's actually a band of support that we see here on the daily chart. And if we were to see a pullback over the next few days, that would probably be a logical area for them to take us down to. You can see right here, RSI is in the nosebleed right now, and if we scroll down even further, you can just see all the indicators are up there in nosebleed land. One thing I do want to take a look at, Dow Utilities. Why do we care about the Dow Utilities? This is typically a safe haven portion of the market, and you can see, even though on the Dow we've been busting out recently, the utilities sector is up about 5% over the last couple of weeks. And this is a lot of panicked money moving in here for safety, while we see the regular stocks slowly push higher each and every day. I mean, it seems like most of these days we are down 60, 70, 80 points, and then the last 20 minutes the robots come in and they push the market higher. We're seeing the real buying and the real movement coming in the utility sector, and that's a potential warning sign for us right now. Another sector to look at is the Dow Transports, which, even though we've had this huge rally in the big Dow stocks, transports have been essentially since mid-November in a 400 or 500 point trading range. We would need to see the trannies break out to confirm this move that is setting up in the Dow. Otherwise, we're going to see a retrace. We need a retrace. I'm finding it very hard to find any sort of decent stocks right now in small cap land. We need some sort of reset. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we do need some sort of reset now, because it is just remarkable the continued push we've been seeing in this market. Another indice I want to take a look at here, this is the IBB ETF for the large biotech stocks. Big move in the IBB yesterday, and we're actually approaching a big breakout here. 301, 302, a break through this level, and we're looking at potential for $40 in upside on this one. Now, what hit this one a lot was all the chatter regarding drug pricing, caps, etc. Doesn't look like Trump's going to do anything near term. Now, that could all change tonight in the speech if he mentions it. If not, you could continue to see this move higher. Now, the reason this is a focus for us, this kind of movement, I'm looking for small biotechs to start to pick up in the near term. Recently, over the last several weeks, the biggest movers in this market in small caps have been the low float garbage. If it's got a low float, it gets chased. You'll be noticing, if you look on Twitter, a lot of the same stocks are starting to get repushed over and over again because there's really only so many low float stocks and they can only get pushed so many times. So I think that train may be coming to an end. There's a lot of bag holders out there from some of those big moves. You know, that's the hot thing in the market. That's what we have to play, but we play small, we play with tight stops, and we don't get crazy. And, you know, when the music stops at that party, we just move on to the next sector. And I think that next sector is possibly going to be some of these little biotech stocks. Now, speaking of these low float stocks and reverse splits, one of the big angles recently has been stocks that have had a reverse split, small cap penny stocks that do big reverse splits, 1 for 50, 20, 25, etc., because it drops their float into minuscule land and then they go on big moves. And some of the recent big ones were, you know, back in December we had SSH do a reverse split and it went crazy. Prior to that, a couple of weeks ago, KBSF, huge move. Another one back in December was IDXG. Again, when the float gets small, these ones go on really big moves. Now, KBSF, the most recent small float reverse split play, I think its float ended up being 7 or 8 or 900,000 shares. Tomorrow, we've got Cyrix is going to open. They're doing a 1 for 15 split, which is going to give them about a 1.26 float. Very small. One of the smallest float reverse split plays we've seen. And this chart actually looks to rock and roll. We've been playing this one now over the last several weeks, waiting for the breakout move. That reduced float tomorrow could be all that the doctor orders. It's going to be, you know, given today's close, I think that's 375 is going to be the pricing tomorrow. Legitimately, this could see a move to $7 to $10 on volume if the interest comes into this one tomorrow. One that recently split was TEUM. Not as big of a mover yet, but you know, one of the hindrances is it trades on Scamex. You know, it's always hard to get stocks to move on that index. But we just had a gap fill on the stock on pretty low volume today. It looked like it was going to go in pre-market over $4. Came back, shook out a lot of weekends. Next push over this 384 level, I think we're going to be looking or getting that move to the 550 area. So that's what we're going to be keying on in the near term. Stock we looked at today and jumped into in the chat room was MYOS. Had a big move, bounce off the 50 days, essentially what we were looking at here. And if we look at the 15-minute chart, you can see here that 283.85 level should give us a move up to, you know, the 3+ zone. Not playing these big, keeping the stops pretty tight on these, and it's all a matter if the volume comes into these. Another play to keep an eye on tomorrow that we picked up some of today was GSVC. Snapchat's supposed to IPO tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the day after. These guys own 130,000 preferred shares. It's another way to play the IPO. A breakout on this one is 557. You know, we got in here pretty tight stops, but if we get a big pop on the IPO on Snapchat in the next day or so, this could be one that could give a nice 10-20% upside move, again depending on if the volume comes in. So that's it for the update, guys. Just more of a cautionary note. The market is still, you know, trudging higher. It's not a time to get short. I'm not saying the top is in. There's just a million shorts out there on Twitter and the internet. Markets don't top when there are still lots of shorts in the market. Tops when they're all long. All we need is a small little pullback. Whether that comes tonight could be a defining moment. You know, really over the next 2 weeks is going to decide if we keep ready to rock and roll or we set up for a much needed retrace and then a push later to try the highs. So have a great night, guys, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.